Today on Bakes and Blenders, we're going to be using a Swiss meringue to create beautiful macarons filled with a peppermint chip buttercream, and then we'll finish them off with a fun chocolate drizzle. These peppermint chip macarons are as beautiful as they are delicious. Let's get started. You'll want to make sure that you have all of your ingredients measured and ready to go before we start the recipe. If you need some help with that, check out my video on my 5 steps to prepare for perfect macarons. There's a link on the video right now and down below in the description box. I mixed my egg whites with about a smidge of Hawaiian blue powdered color from Sugar Art an hour before beginning the meringue to give the color time to develop. Combine your egg whites and your sugar in your mixing bowl. Give it a good whisk just to make sure everything's combined. Then you're going to pop it over a double boiler. Stir your egg whites and sugar over the double boiler for about 90 seconds. You don't need to whisk it hard, just keep it moving so no egg whites start to cook. You want the sugar to dissolve completely. Then remove the bowl, dry off the bottom, pop it back into your stand mixer, and we're going to start whipping. Now here's my trick to creating a nice stable Swiss meringue. First, I slowly increase the speed up to a speed 6 on my KitchenAid. So I'll spend about 15 to 30 seconds at speed 2, then go to 4, 15, 30 seconds, and then go up to a 6. Once I'm at a speed 6, I whip for 5 minutes. At that point, I stop the mixer, check and see how it's coming along, then I start it back up, but I put it at a speed 4. And then I whip that for 1 minute at a time, and after each minute I stop and I check my meringue. Once my meringue has stiff peaks that shoot straight up, that do not wiggle or fall over when I move my whisk, I know that my meringue is good to go. Now it's time to combine our sturdy Swiss meringue with our dry ingredients. Add the almond flour and powdered sugar to your meringue and begin to fold the ingredients together. This process is called macaronage. While we will be knocking a lot of air out of our meringue, you don't want to do it too quickly. The first thing you need to focus on is creating a cohesive batter. So you want your dry ingredients and your meringue to fold together so that they are one cohesive batter and there are no streaks of dry ingredients. Once everything is well combined, this is the part where we start to focus on consistency. You want to fold your batter until it is thick but flows smoothly off of your spatula like slow-moving lava. Honestly, that description is accurate, but I don't find it very helpful all of the time. I like to fold my batter, and after every 12 strokes, I pick it up and I test it to see how it is moving. When it flows off of my spatula smoothly without having clumps or breaking, then I know that I'm about there. You do want your batter at the perfect consistency. However, if you're new to macarons or if you're just not confident, it is always best to undermix. Once your batter is ready, go ahead and transfer it to a large piping bag fitted with a small to medium round tip. I'm using a number 12. When you're piping your macaron shells, you want to make sure that you're holding your piping bag perpendicular to your tray and using nice even pressure. I prefer to squeeze with one hand, the one that's on the back of the bag, and use my other hand, my left hand, to stabilize and guide my piping tip. Now, my baking tray is lined with a silicone baking mat that has a macaron template on it. Then on top of that, I put a Teflon sheet that I've used many times and now has its own macaron template on it. This, I find, gives me the best macarons, but you could use just a silicone mat, just Teflon, or just parchment paper. To get evenly sized shells, a template does help, but I also like to count, sometimes out loud, when I'm piping my shells. I usually count slowly to either 3 or 4 and use that for all of my piping for that tray. After I've piped my tray, I slam it firmly on the counter twice, rotate it, 2 more slams, then use a toothpick if there are any air bubbles that you need to wiggle out, if you have any peaks or points on your macaron shells that are really bothering you, you can use a toothpick to kind of wiggle those out. Don't go too crazy though. After you've done that, 2 more bangs, turn the tray, 2 more bangs, and then if there are any more air bubbles that have surfaced, take care of those. Now you're going to let your tray rest until your macaron shells have formed a skin, so they will be matte on top, no longer wet and shiny, and you should be able to very gently touch the top of a macaron shell and it won't stick to you. Bake the macarons at 285 degrees Fahrenheit for about 23 to 25 minutes or until the feet don't wiggle at all. Let them cool on the tray for about 10 to 30 minutes before peeling them off and placing them on a cooling rack to cool completely. Let's make that peppermint chip buttercream. Add your pasteurized egg whites to the bowl of a stand mixer. Add a little more than half of your powdered sugar. It doesn't have to be exact, but if you want to be, about 4 ounces. Then whip on high with your whisk attachment. You will most likely need to stop and scrape your bowl down after a little bit just to get all of the powdered sugar combined. You can find links to these recipes in the description box below this video. Whisk in the softened butter 1 tablespoon at a time, allowing each portion to incorporate before you add the next. You can find links to the products that I've used in the description box below this video. Once all of the butter has been added and incorporated, stop your mixer, scrape the bowl down, then continue to whip on a medium-high to high speed. If you're enjoying this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you can see more of my videos. Scrape your bowl down, then add your peppermint oil and the rest of your powdered sugar. Switch to a paddle attachment and then beat on low until combined, and then you can increase the speed just a tiny bit and beat until nice and smooth. I prefer to make my macaron fillings at least a day or 2 in advance. If you are also doing that, you can go ahead and store your buttercream in an airtight container in the fridge at this point. Before we go to fill our macarons, we're going to fold in some chopped chocolate. I did a nice rough chop. You want to make sure that the chocolate's going to be small enough to pass through a piping tip, but if it is nothing but super fine shreds, the chocolate will melt in the piping bag in your hand and kind of turn your frosting a muddy color. Pair up your macaron shells by size so that they all have a perfect match, and then we're ready to fill. You'll want to use a large round piping tip such as a 1A and pipe a large blob of filling onto one of your macarons for each pair. Unfortunately, thanks to the chopped chocolate, this doesn't pipe very beautifully. That's okay, it's just gonna kind of splooge out in different directions and not be very gorgeous, but it tastes incredible. Once you've piped your filling, you can top the bottom macaron with the top macaron shell and press them together gently. At this point, I like to put my undecorated macarons into an airtight container and put them in the fridge to give that filling time to set up. To decorate the macarons, put some melted chocolate into a small piping bag. Snip the very, very smallest part of the end of that bag off, and we're going to drizzle. You could do a simple back and forth line over the shells if you'd like, but I decided to go for a more swirly option this time. In the air above your macarons, you want to picture drawing concentric circles that overlap around the macaron. This is going to create that fun swirly detail. These peppermint chip macarons were my son's absolute favorite flavor of macarons that I've done so far. There's a burst of chili peppermint coolness when you bite into the macaron, and then you've got that smooth semi-sweet chocolate in there that just mellows it all out. It's absolutely delicious, and they're incredibly gorgeous. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. If you did, you might like some of my other macaron videos, so check out the playlist on your screen right now. I'll see you in the next one. Happy baking!